What's going on with Caitlin Clark's back?
She's not completely healthy.
That sure looks like a back brace.
You're going to put a back brace on her on national TV? That's absolutely ridiculous.
A lot of people will say, well, let's wait and see what the Fever say. Really? After blowing smoke up your ass all year last year? You're just going to hear what they got to say and blindly follow it.
Everything altered once more just 2 minutes ago. Fans of Indiana Fever were expecting to avoid the same plot, but it has returned, and it may be worse than before. Due to Caitlin Clark's recent injury.
Caitlin Clark walking around with a back brace.
I don't know who decided this, to put a back brace on her.
Everybody wants to know, is it a back brace? Is it a heating pad? What is it?
All of this began at what ought to have been a typical preseason event. The Indiana Fever are competing, gaining reps, developing camaraderie, and overcoming rust. It appeared fine on paper.
Fans remember how the Indiana Fever treated them last season, dragging them along, using Caitlin Clark as a circus act, taking her from this place to that place, only to increase attendance. Fans remember.
Clark didn't appear to be herself. 7 points, 2 out of 10 shots, poor rhythm, and, above all, something didn't seem quite right. It's not quite explosive. After a few minutes, the confidence started to wane.
I wouldn't put it past them to have her wearing this when she doesn't need it, just to give everyone something to talk about.
What is the back brace on Caitlin Clark? Some people are saying it's a heating pad. Did you see one on anybody else?
She needs that, because if she didn't need that, they wouldn't have done it. And if that's a need, there's something wrong.
The moment that ignited everything then arrived. It looked like Caitlin Clark was wearing a back brace. Nor subtle, nor concealed. There it was, right in front of you. Alarms went off right away. Since this isn't typical. In a preseason game, you don't just toss a back brace on your team's star player unless something is seriously wrong. Fans took notice right away. Analysts took note. Everyone in the audience responded in the same way. What's going on here? This is where the uncomfortable part begins.
Faking an injury to cover up a disaster class. She did this all last year, too.
And some people will say, well, maybe it's precautionary. Did anybody else have one on? Fever brought this on themselves. The skepticism because of what happened last year. Now we don't believe you.
The Indiana Fever front office is a disaster. The only reason why people are watching this team is because of CC22.
Since this isn't taking place in a vacuum. This is the same Indiana Fever team that consistently minimized injuries during the previous season. The same group that classified certain circumstances as day-to-day, only to have them subtly drag on for weeks or even months. Fans keep that in mind. They experienced it firsthand. They purchased tickets in anticipation of seeing Caitlin Clark, only to learn at the last minute that she would not be performing.
Do you feel like you've got a better all-around team if Caitlin Clark is not on the court? Stephanie White will tell you yes.
The WNBA is trying to kill Caitlin Clark with paper cuts.
She believes the team is better without the most dynamic playmaker in all of the WNBA and in women's sports not on the court.
It was announced that the Indiana Fever would have all 44 games televised on national TV.
There's no way Caitlin Clark shouldn't have been in the front of this damn flyer to saying all 44 games.
We're going to continue to prioritize the locker room and the chemistry in the locker room and the continuity.
If Stephanie White believes there is a superstar on this team, she believes it is Kelsey Mitchell, not Caitlin Clark.
All 44 national TV games. And they pictured 3 Indiana Fever players. And Kelsey Mitchell is centered. Kelsey Mitchell is the most important player on the Indiana Fever. She has nothing to do with all 44 Indiana Fever games being on national TV. It's not the Indiana Fever that are getting all 44 of their games on national TV. It's Caitlin Clark who's getting all 44 of her games on national TV. They're killing Caitlin Clark. They hit her with another paper cut.
A lot of the things the Indiana Fever have done signals to them trying to be successful without Caitlin Clark rather than with her. Kelsey Mitchell's the #1 priority. Kelsey Mitchell, we want her to be here forever. Kelsey Mitchell, it seems like they want to win without Caitlin Clark.
Some fans have admitted they are hesitant how after last year CC was handled.
Caitlin isn't your priority, and it shows. We spent thousands last season just to watch her get iced out. No screens, no plays, just standing there in the corner like a decoy, and now the coach thinks she's a combo guard.
Therefore, people no longer have the benefit of the doubt when they see a back brace. Skepticism is present. Frustration is present. To be honest, there's a growing feeling that certain information isn't being properly revealed. Because, consider it. Why is she wearing it at all if this was really nothing? On the team, nobody else had one. This wasn't a roster-wide precaution. This was visible, targeted, and explicit enough to cause conjecture right away. Some are attempting to ignore it. It might just be a heating pad. Perhaps it's a preventative measure. Perhaps it's not a big deal. But when things become tough, that reasoning falls apart. Because why create the diversion at all if it was nothing? Why not deal with it in private? Why not hold off till the half? Knowing exactly what kind of reaction that would elicit, why put it on video and in plain view? It is nonsensical. And that's precisely the reason why fans are currently going crazy. Since they had already observed this tendency. It began modestly last season as well. Small issues, imprecise updates, and silent restrictions in minutes. Then all of a sudden, it grew into something more. Something that affected games, rotations, and eventually the team's overall course.
You have Lin Dunn tweeting out at fans, calling them complainers. When you start taking shots at the people that support you, the people that reach into their wallet for you, they remember. Flew to Indy with a friend, stayed in a hotel across the street, and our favorite players weren't playing. Bought tickets early, and by August, the team was decimated. Many fans want to see how the season goes before commitment.
And here we are once more, asking the same questions at the start of a new season. Is Caitlin Clark genuinely in good health? Or are we witnessing the preliminary indications of another circumstance being cautiously handled in the background? As if that weren't enough, fans are even more uncomfortable because of another aspect of the narrative. Because the injury isn't the only factor. It concerns the exploitation of Caitlin Clark.
Kelsey Mitchell, 18.7 of 12, plus 20 for Money Mitch. Caitlin Clark, 60 minutes, 7 points, 2 for 10 from the field. Caitlin Clark comes out.
Everything came together early in the game as the Fever were accelerating. Clark was combative. She was assaulting. She was moving the ball, pulling up from deep, creating opportunities, and involving everyone. Indiana seems hazardous at the time. They appeared to be a club constructed around a generational talent at that point. However, it ceased after that. The speed decreased. The offensive strategy changed. Abruptly, the Caitlin Clark maximizing mechanism vanished. This has been a persistent source of annoyance. The Fever appear to be able to compete with anyone once they adopt Clark's fast-paced, frenetic, high-tempo style. However, everything tightens up the instant that identity is taken away. The attack pauses. There is a decrease in energy. And instead of being the focal point, Clark turns into just another piece. Additionally, fans are beginning to see a trend in this. Because there's a growing perception that this team isn't really dedicated to developing around Caitlin Clark. Some people actually believe that the reverse is taking place. The remarks are audible to you. The rotations are visible to you. You observe which players are given priority. It also poses a major query. Is Indiana attempting to maintain equilibrium? Or are they deliberately turning their attention away from Clark? Because the offense runs through Kelsey Mitchell when she gets hot. When changes are made, they don't necessarily play to Clark's advantages. Additionally, it occasionally seems as though the coaching staff is attempting to shoehorn Clark into a system rather than creating the system around her. It's a risky game, particularly when you're working with a player who genuinely altered the league's overall landscape. Because, let's be honest, Caitlin Clark is more than a mere athlete. Areas are packed because of her. Games are broadcast on national television because of her. The demand for tickets skyrocketed because of her. And everything falls apart when she doesn't play. Fans are aware of this. For this reason, the problem seems more serious than an injury. Because what precisely is the plan if Caitlin Clark is injured and the team continues to minimize it while failing to fully develop around her? More significantly, who is this team actually giving priority to? Because it seems like there are conflicting signals everywhere right now when looking in from the outside. A franchise player may not be fully recovered. There are obvious indications that anything is physically wrong with you. You have a track record of dubious transparency. Additionally, your system doesn't always make the most of its greatest asset. Fans of the Indiana Fever are currently in disbelief because of that combination.
Sophie Cunningham is coming out with a point to prove, hitting three after three after three.
Sophie Cunningham came out with her hair on fire, knocking it down. 14 minutes, 3 3-pointers, scored 13 points.
Sophie Cunningham came out with a point to prove she's going to get paid big.
The most terrifying aspect is that this could only be the start. Because this season might spiral out of control before it really starts if this back brace situation escalates into something more, Clark starts missing time, or the same communication problems recur. We're going to explore fan reactions now. What this could mean long-term and the rising friction inside the Fever organization that nobody is openly talking about yet. At this point, things really start to get out of hand. Because supporters didn't respond calmly when they saw the back brace. It detonated. Instantly, social media lighted up. With distrust rather than interest. Because folks weren't merely inquiring about its nature. Why now, they asked. More significantly, what are we not being informed? Some fans made an effort to maintain their composure. It might just be heat treatment. Perhaps it's a precaution. Perhaps thus early in the season, the training staff is simply being cautious. However, that serenity was short-lived. Because it became less logical the more fans investigated it. This wasn't something it was previously seen on Caitlin Clark. Not the previous season. Not during exercise. Not in footage from the off-season. Not in any prior game circumstances. And all of a sudden, it appears during a preseason game. That timing isn't typical. And that's precisely why conjecture took over. A few began relating it to her performance. 2 for 10 on that difficult shooting night no longer seemed like an off game. It had context now. People were now wondering if she was okay in the world at all. Because everything is impacted if you are experiencing even little back pain. Your confidence is boosted by your shooting technique and balance. Particularly for a player like Clark, whose game heavily relies on range and rhythm. What should have been a meaningless preseason stat line, music, now seems like a red flag. Then the greater fear arrived. What if this isn't brand new? What if this has been developing? Because no one can overlook that aspect. Such injuries, particularly those affecting the back, typically take time to manifest. They grow. They stay. They are handled discreetly until they can no longer be disregarded. And if that's the case, it's possible that this scenario is far more advanced than anyone is acknowledging. This takes us back to the Indiana Fever. Because the way they handle information is now scrutinized. Vague updates are no longer acceptable to fans. They no longer make daily purchases. That expression has become meaningless. It's been overdone, stretched, and sometimes utterly deceptive. People recall how long the previous day was. Therefore, no one will be calmed down if that label is employed once more. It will have the opposite effect. It will validate anxieties. This is where things start to get even more awkward. Because there is still an underlying tension around Caitlin Clark's status on the squad despite all of this and fans' concerns about her health. In this very game, you witnessed it. She launches an aggressive, self-assured approach, dominating the tempo with early hitting shots before timing out. Talk on the sidelines. And all of a sudden, everything is different. Reduced ball control. Less liberty. Less rhythm. And they see that right away. Because it's starting to become an unavoidable pattern. Every time Clark begins to fully assume control, something stops her. The outcome is the same regardless of coaching choices, offensive modifications, or a change in emphasis. Caitlin Clark's dominant gaming persona vanishes. And fans want to know why. Because there are now more than one preseason game involved. This has to do with direction.
Stephanie White slowed this team down. Just like last year, slow the game down. The Fever got a major issue with lack of length and a lack of bigs.
Yeah, I think it's new for everybody. I think we got to be smart. She has worked her butt off this whole offseason to prepare herself. We have an added advantage in that she played games in March with USA Basketball. And she has game exposure. She has game pace. She has game rhythm. She has game timing. So we have an advantage. But we also want to be smart. She doesn't need every rep in practice. Like, we want to continue to ramp her up. You know, it's a long season. season, 44 games. We play a heavy cadence of games in a week. And so we want to be smart in camp and make sure we ease her into it because she's ready for camp. We want to make sure that we manage the reps and what kinds of reps she's getting just to build her up.
When you're playing in a season, you're always hurt. Whether it's a toe, a finger, most things players don't even talk about. Like, they really only talk about the big stuff that keeps them out of game.
The idea that the Fever are attempting to change their identity so that it doesn't entirely revolve around Clark is becoming more and more popular. And whether on purpose or not, the perception is turning into reality, particularly when you consider how other players are being emphasized. For instance, Kelsey Mitchell played a good game. She became hot. She scored well. The offense, of course, skewed toward that. Here's the problem, though. Clark becomes secondary when the system moves too far in that direction. And the disconnect occurs there. Because you don't develop a generational gift by forcing her to change all the time. Everything else is constructed around her. And it doesn't feel like that all the time right now. You now have two significant issues going on at the same time. A possible harm that could be severe or not. And a system that might not be optimizing the player at its core. That combo is risky. Because you're not only restricting Caitlin Clark's influence if she's not in optimal condition and isn't being fully liberated. The entire season is at stake. Fans can sense the tension growing as well. They are concerned about more than just missing games. They are concerned about lost opportunities. Because this isn't your typical player. This player is the one who completely transformed this franchise. Sales of tickets. National focus. Media attention. Energy within arenas. Caitlin Clark's arrival completely changed the Indiana Fever's identity. There's a genuine concern now that all of that momentum might stall. It is due to internal decisions rather than opponents. This is the portion that no one in the organization is talking aloud. However, many are wondering what would happen to everything else if Caitlin Clark missed time once more. What is the outcome of attendance? What happens to the number of viewers? What happens to the enthusiasm this group created? As we have previously seen the solution. The entire vibe shifts when Clark isn't playing. Fans are also fed up with not knowing about it. Last-minute updates are not what they want. Vague injury reports are not what they want. They don't want to arrive expecting one thing and receive something very else. They desire openness. They are looking for clarity. Above all, they want to know that the team is making every effort to safeguard and make the most of its star player. Because it doesn't feel quite that way at the moment. This narrative won't end until the Indiana Fever deal with the issue head-on and provide a comprehensive explanation of Caitlin Clark's predicament. It will actually only grow louder. Because what began as a straightforward preseason incident has now escalated into a major dispute. An injury scare. A problem with trust. Additionally, there is a widening gap between what supporters see and what they are told. So, the question now isn't only if Caitlin Clark is all right. How long can the Fever maintain control on this story before it entirely escapes their grasp is the true question.